yeah, what a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday. It is a Wednesday, everybody, just so you know. It's Rumor Innuendo, too. And I'm Dominic D'Angelo of adfreeshows.com, SEScoops.com, and brassringmedia.com. Check it out. But today, it's a triple threat. We got Mr. Robert Karplus, WE Creative _ish with us, and Justin Brasso at The Undisputed. Guys, how are you? Justin, how are you doing, man?
I just got back from Vince's 80th.
Oh, congrats. How was it?
What a bash. Yeah.
Ooh, man.
Robert and I actually both went. We had to do, I think the word to describe it is delightful.
My invite must have got lost in the mail or something.
Kayfabe.
Robert, how was the birthday experience for you with Vince? Please let us know.
What are you doing to me here? Why do you got to be weird when we have company?
I always think I am weird, just all the time.
No argument here. Let's say hi to the people who are joining us.
Hey, thanks. Triple E says, what's up? Devin Dowling says, Ayo, Chico. Willie Thornborough says, it's a Wednesday, and I'm so excited. Uh-oh. You don't want me to play.
No.
What does that mean?
You know. Dre Owen says, hello, Hunter and I. Do we see the return of Orange Cassidy tonight? And will Dom sing for Robert? Oh, my gosh. I am getting...
In all my times on this show, I've never actually heard you sing while I've been here live.
I'm kind of... It's weird. I can do it on stage. I can do it when there's an event going on and stuff like... I just feel weird singing in front of friends. It's very strange. I don't know. You guys are my friends, right?
I was going to tell you don't have to worry about that because we're not, but you tramp out all over the joke. So here we are.
Yes.
Jeff Henninger says, hello, R&I, waiting for Dom to hit that exciting. Damn it. Why did I read this without paying attention?
Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to play it. That would just be irresponsible of me.
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it.
One more time.
So excited, and I just
On cue.
can't hide it.
That's it. See?
Can we close that behind the forbidden door? Seal that song behind the forbidden door. If Will Ospreay has to go away for a while, so should that song.
Forbidden door. I think it was Robert who called it. Maybe Dom. I certainly think Robert touched on it. Having a short mini feud or TV feud maybe could have ended at and with Ricochet involved, it felt like it would have been perfect. I don't know the point. You could still do the outsmarting MJF and Hangman. I wish they did a Hangman Ricochet feud, kind of mini feud that built the Forbidden Door and that wrapped. Or you could then tie it into Maxwell. But I thought that match was too long. I thought there were too many stipulations. We actually touched on last week. What if they changed the stips? They did. I don't know. I'm curious where we go from here in AEW.
Yeah, Justin, you called it last week. We thought maybe you thought that they were going to pivot and try to get Max to escape out of that contract situation, and they did do it. So,
I didn't know he was going to threaten to light Mark Briscoe on fire, but I'm also curious. At least there's where you're going next of that feud, right? It's not over. Max has the contract. Tony Khan said you need a week to cash it in, or a week to announce you're going to wrestle the champ. But Athena, I thought that match didn't connect in the way I hoped it would with Toni Storm. I don't know what. Obviously, she's still got the Ring of Honor title, but I don't know what happens next.
Right. It's a kind of a head scratcher. I mean, you could line up another thing. It seems like they're wanting Mercedes Moné to maybe get 10 titles at some point or another because she's at 9. So maybe you can rekindle that a little bit. But I mean, it just seems like so many opportunities to make the most of the women's division, and they haven't really capitalized on a lot of the talent there.
They continue to follow the same formula. It's as if Tony is booking a video game. You get to a villain, you beat the villain, and then you move on to the next villain, and then whoever you just beat, flashes and then vanishes into thin air. Mm-hmm. So he's booking via Mega Man, which is very problematic. Tonight is going to be a lot of heavy lifting for our friends in AEW. There's no Will Ospreay. There's no Swerve. There's no definitive number one contender for the AEW world title. There's no definitive contender for the AEW women's world title. There's probably a path forward with Mercedes as it relates to Alex Windsor because she didn't get pinned. But one of the most interesting takeaways, and I want to get Justice's thought on this, with Forbidden Door in the past, we used to lament and say the show was great, but I only got a one-off of Okada. I only got a one-off of Will Ospreay. I wish they were there. Coming off of Forbidden Door this time, it seems like the internet, all they want is Bozilla. But how do you maintain relationships with these other companies if you keep poaching their top talent.
And that's it too. I mean, New Japan's never in the last decade have they had less momentum.
Right.
And why? I mean, it's not because they didn't have good talent. It's all their main talent, with the exception of Tetsuya Naito, is wrestling for AEW pretty much, right? I mean, that's some are in WWE, but the vast majority is in All Elite Wrestling. I think Bazilla, the best thing she can do, and I thought she was great on Sunday, is stay away for a little while. I thought that was one of the things that maybe not designed that way, but AJ Styles benefited from it. Kenny Omega benefited from it. Sometimes the less we see you, even for the most exceptionally talented people in the world, and I think you're seeing it more with Kenny now, we see, and that's probably his health too, we see less and less of Kenny wrestle. The times we see Kenny are special, like we saw at Forbidden Door in the Lights Out cage match on Sunday. So I think almost distance makes the heart grow fonder, because you start to see somebody too often, and it becomes, even for the great ones, it becomes a little too ordinary. I thought, not to go all Vince and Hulk on us, but I thought Vince was very good with that, with Hulk Hogan appearances, right? Special occasions.
Right. And even in WCW, when he turned heel, he would never defend the title on television, with the exception of the Goldberg match. And it would just, you'd see him make appearances, but he wouldn't be wrestling, and you would have to pay to see him wrestle. So
do either one of you regret? I like what the Young Bucks are doing. So and maybe and things change, right? And injuries happen, though. I feel like neither of these injuries came out of left field, but I like the Bucks being stripped of their EVP titles at the Umbop spot. Do you change that finish at All In, knowing that Ospreay and Swerve are going away?
It's the second dumbest finish I think that AEW has done, beyond not putting the world title on Will Ospreay. I think that they should have. I still maintain they should have gone with Ospreay instead of Man.
I heard it. I don't know what it was, but I heard it.
Either it was a comet soaring by Dom's house. You look at it, Hangman has not had the connection with the audience that Will Ospreay has had. I'm not saying Hangman has not connected with the crowd, but there is a clear difference when Ospreay goes out there and talks versus when Hangman goes out there and talks. So it made more sense to go with Ospreay than it did Hangman Page. The second piece of that is, if you knew Ospreay and Swerve were not going to be around for a while, you absolutely should have kept the EVP titles on the Young Bucks, and then forced Ospreay and Swerve in a situation where they can't challenge for the title for a year. So Swerve going after Okada would have made more sense. Ospreay not going after Hangman makes sense. And then if they're both on the shelf for a while, you're not losing anybody who's at the tippy top. Instead, you have the EVP jokes, which, yes, Umbop was fine. I hated the gummy bear spot simply because this was such a vicious match. This did have that fork in the ear spot that drove Dom nuts, that I wasn't a fan of. And then at the same time, you have the haha with the gummy bears. Nobody goes back and looks at the the Undertaker Mick Foley Hell in a Cell match and thinks, I wish that had a better comedy spot. Should have hit him with a pie.
Well, Robert, I kind of disagree with you on this, in the aspect that
you gotta let that joke breathe, Dom. I'm sorry, that was a good one. That was good.
It was pretty good. Well, Robert it does have the good jokes. It's hard. We only got 30 minutes, so I'm trying
that's
to
true.
make.
That's true. I'm sorry. Please.
But that's okay. I think it is the right move. It was the right move to take the EVP designation away from them, because it was a sick, tired trope that they've been doing with the Young Bucks, and I was tired of it. And not only that, but we have the fatigue of the Death Riders stuff going on at the same time. I think they did need a change. They needed to move on. Now, from a logistical standpoint, for what you're saying, Robert, makes perfect sense to do that, especially if you knew these injuries or the time away was going to happen and all that kind of stuff. But I do think the Young Bucks, you can build towards this redemption story for them at some point or another, where they're getting all this diminished and disrespected and everything like that. And later you can culminate this into maybe having a bigger tag team title program, whether that's with Cope and Christian, FTR, or Brody and Brodito together. So I think there's some legs there with that. But when you're trying to find some bigger baby faces to kind of supplement what you're going to lose with Swerve and Ospreay, that is a conundrum right there.
So I think that's where having heel authority figures helps, especially when you try to apply any logic whatsoever to what Tony Khan books. In that, to Justin's point, MJF tried to light Mark Briscoe on fire, and he wasn't suspended, he still got his world title match.
Right.
Having EVPs there who were going to say, hey, yeah, but he didn't really light him on fire, so he's allowed to go get that title opportunity. To allow the Death Riders to continue to operate without, without impunity, you need EVPs there that can do that. If you have the non-Callis family, which now includes 1/3 of North America, you need those guys to be able to get their opportunities because of what you're seeing with EVPs, like Wardlow showing up and basically murdering Swerve. If you have a babyface owner, which unless you're Jake Hager, Tony Khan is a babyface owner, Wardlow shows up, murder Swerve. He should have been immediately suspended. And then the EVPs could have been like, actually, he's fine. He's not suspended. So I think you need that crux. You need that lever to be able to pull, and not having them there means who's making these decisions?
I'm a Wardlow guy through and through. I guess I'll segue to Wardlow a little bit. I like the return. I just don't like him back in a faction. And they're all impressive guys. They're all big guys. It's like having more than one giant. You don't have any giants when you have more than one. I wish that Wardlow was doing something. As a heel is fine on his own. He's just such a talent. I'm trying to think of somebody else in New Japan or WWE or just elsewhere that I think is not maybe languishing on the roster. Like Wardlow's a world title to me type guy. Mm-hmm. It's tough to see him in a spot. I guess the only other person I'd say is Finn Balor, but I think that's a story, part of the story arc. I think they're going to build him back up to being a strong babyface. He's got something. Finn has something going in Judgment Day. There's a purpose to his work. There wasn't for a long time with Wardlow. So I'm excited he's back, but I worry it's not the right place.
Me too.
It feels like the only advantage that you have with Wardlow at the moment is that he can help move Takeshita into becoming a top babyface with the tension that you're teasing there. The money is in Kyle Fletcher versus Takeshita at some point in time. So if Wardlow is the agent to help move that forward, so be it. But there is that small part that thinks, if Wardlow were gone and he showed up and stepped face to face with Obafemi, that's a hell of a moment right there.
I was at NXT on Sunday night. I like that building. You're right on top of the action in Lowell. It's where Shawn Michaels infamously lost his smile all those years ago. TNA's run out of there a bunch of times. Samoa Joe beat Finn Balor for the NXT title there. It's a building with a lot of wrestling history, and Lowell's a good town. I loved the show. I thought it was, everything that AEW's Forbidden Door wasn't, because it was tighter. It was quicker. I didn't love the fact there were 2 triple threats on the same card, but I just thought it was a very, very good card. I thought 5 out of the 6 matches really hit. I was impressed with Heatwave on Sunday night.
Let me ask you this too, Justin. What do you think of the star potential and power of Obafemi?
So it's always the question of where they go from here. Mm-hmm. I did the Boston Herald interview with Shawn Michaels last Sunday, and I thought Shawn's point was interesting when he said that what makes NXT unique is we are the only promotion that builds talent for somebody else. Mm-hmm. We're the only ones. Everyone else does it to make their own brand better. We do it for the person not to stay here. So I don't know what happens to Obafemi on the main roster. He just feels like he's a perfect fit for NXT, and I mean that in a positive sense. But eventually, what's going to happen? You're going to need to evolve. You're going to need to change. I don't know. But I think he's talented enough that you could do enough with him on the main roster. I don't know. Right now, it just feels like he's still the right fit for NXT.
Interesting. Robert, what do you think?
I can see a world where Dom becomes a babyface with his title, and then Obafemi shows up and demolishes him.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, there's certainly embers for that. Absolutely.
There definitely is. What's interesting, you're talking about Lowell and playing to that building. AEW tonight is in the old ECW arena.
Yes.
They are the 2300 arena.
That's a challenging space to have to introduce a lot of new story elements, because that crowd can make or break whoever AEW is now going to be moving into that Ospreay and Swerve spot.
I think the venue will play to that benefit, though, for them and the crowd that will be there. I mean, you do get obviously a more intimate crowd being at that kind of venue.
Yes.
And the aspect you're going to get the ardent fans that are paying to see it. I don't think people will go there to hate on it. Funny enough, I saw NXT at the 2300 Arena. So, and man, that place was like jam packed, not just with fans, but how the whole operation was. It's going to be a real peculiar sight to see how AEW handles all that stuff. And
Have they announced matches for tonight?
Yes, they have. They actually have, Robert.
Moxie's on the Moxie, Daniel Garcia.
Sorry, Justin. I knew I was trying to direct Dom to move to the next thing on the chart.
Can I mention real quick though?
Yeah.
That was really good. Saturday night, I went to actually a fun little theater, and it wasn't packed, but the crowd that was there wanted to be there. It was a special screening of Raven's new documentary.
Oh yeah.
I would highly recommend it. I nitpicked the hell out of it. I'm taking notes on my phone. I'm that guy, but I had the like the brightness level down as low as it could go. It's just out of order. Like the stories are really good, but there's just like we're a quarter of the way through and he's talking about like the end of his life and contemplation. And then we go right back into his career. The stories were different, but again, if you're an ECW fan, one thing that really surprised me, there was a Q&A after, and I understand he sued WWE twice. He's probably not going to the WWE Hall of Fame, but how is he not on the wall at the 2300 Arena? That to me makes no sense. I mean, when you think ECW, Raven's one of those top guys. But I'd recommend it. I think it'll bother you guys at times. And they leave out CM Punk. How do you keep? And he gave I'm sorry to jump around. He gave a great Punk quote after the show. Someone's like, "What about Punk?" He's like, "I didn't think we had enough time to fit it in." It was 2 hours. The doc was 2 hours long. You can't fit CM Punk in.
That was my entry point to CM Punk. Was the CM Punk feud?
And he had a great quote in the during the Q&A. He said, Punk was a kid who thought he was the best in the world back then, and he wasn't. But that's who he became. You couldn't fit that quote into this 2 hour doc.
Right. Imagine they started on that too.
There better be about 25 to 30 minutes on Johnny Polo, or I'm not.
So there was some good Johnny Polo stuff, and I kind of forgot that he was so close with Shane. What bothered me, and I watched the show with Francis Connolly, who we do the High Above Ringside podcast together, and Francis is my editor. So I always think, with stories, like, because Francis is a pretty tough editor. And when I get stories back, if they're not, I don't say neat, but if they're not structured, I hear about it, which I respect the world of him because he's such a good editor. Right. But for instance, Johnny Polo and Shane McMahon are buddies. I don't know. Give me some context. What's the age gap? I think there's like a 6-year age gap. We looked up later. Scott Levy's older. When Raven leaves WCW, the infamous Bischoff says, "You want to leave? Then quit." And he leaves. He goes back to ECW for a major pop. There's no context on the show, the match, the moment. It's just like all this stuff. Why are you leaving meat on the bone? I mean, you've got great info here. Also, a lot of revisionist stuff too, which I like. I like Sandman saying if he got to Vince first, he would have been Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like that character was him. I like that stuff. I mean, that's pro wrestling, right? Yeah. It should have been me, but I can't believe Raven's not on the wall at 2300 Arena.
Did they cover him winning Ben Stein's money?
No.
That's a great deep pull right there, and I fully remember watching it. Raven's one of the. We could do a whole episode on Raven.
Yeah,
and maybe we will one of these days. But apparently, they're doing a Dynamite in ECW Arena with no Raven.
Perhaps
but there's always the possibility of Blue Meanie popping up, friend of the show, Blue Meanie.
Yeah, McCuster's Tavern's right down the street from.
It is, and I'm sure he'll be there enjoying a nice PBR.
Absolutely. Yes. So on tap for tonight, hey, pun intended, there's a Falls Count Anywhere between Darby Allin and Claudio. Seems like a fun match to follow up with after Forbidden Door. Is this, or do you have some qualms with this, Robert?
This is the match to go with. This is a way to, Darby getting plugged back in. Clearly the fork didn't do the job. That crowd, I think, is going to be really excited to cheer on Claudio. I think that he's a guy that they're going to say has not been properly utilized and spotlighted and pushed. So I think this is a chance for these guys to go out there, set that tone of violence that the ECW arena wants, maybe brawl out into the street and pile driver onto someone's car for a nice little callback. But that's a pretty fun match to give that audience.
Yeah, definitely should be a fun one. Justin, what do
But
you think?
they do need to be cautious that a Falls Count Anywhere in that building can very quickly highlight how small that building is.
It is very tiny. It is a small venue, especially the wrestling atmosphere of it all. It's very, very tight venue there. So
I hope they use these potential disadvantages, and Robert highlighted them both. The setting is very small. Also, the crowd could go the other way. I hope they use them as advantages, because if you can get that crowd behind you and you can highlight the building in all its history, like, they're going to have a great show. It's just a matter of you got to hit those notes. I think Claudio's a guy that's a Philly guy, right? Even though he's not from anywhere near there, but a guy who's been overlooked, a guy who is a wrestler's wrestler. Like, so we have Moxley too tonight. I'm excited. I think it's a one-off Forbidden Door, right? No title change. One title changed hands. It was the tag titles out of what, the 7 tag title matches,
right,
is that right?
Yeah.
So it's really a reset tonight. So tonight's a big episode for AEW.
Yeah, I'm just simply the intrigue of seeing it in the 2300 arena gives me the motivation to watch it tonight.
Sure.
Live.
They do well in unique venues. So we're getting a Darby and Claudio match that feels really strong. That most likely feels like we'll get Death Rider involvement and a bunch of the Ops and everybody else kind of brawling. What else is on tap?
The only other match they have listed here is Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford teaming up against Harley Cameron and Chris Statlander. So a women's tag match is on tap. Any thoughts regarding that?
I think that the crowd is going to go wild for Megan Bayne.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she needs to have the big spotlight on her. I guess Harley is someone that this audience is going to appreciate. I think it's a nice chance for her to get a few moments. This is going to sound very weird and problematic in 2025, and I'm okay with that. It is very strange in 2025 to put Penelope Ford in the ECW arena and not get one of the old Francine or Beulah chants that would have gone there about her propensity for cocaine and prostitution.
She is from Philly, so there might be some options.
Real quick on the Raven Dog. Yeah. I mean, they highlighted some of those old storylines. You can't judge yesterday by today's standards, but if you tried to run some of that stuff with Sandman's Kid or Beulah or Kimono Wanalea or, I mean, just wild stuff. I would open tonight, for what it's worth. I would open tonight with MJF in the ring and a microphone.
Oh, 100%. 100%. What would you, Robert, how would you book that tonight?
Have him come out in Jake Hager's hat. I think that is a crowd that is primed to throw a Hager chant out there at some point in time.
Oh,
Devin Dowling says probably a Tony Storm promo. Yes, I think that Tony Storm's play on this is a hardcore building and there's no one more hardcore than me, and all of her weird double entendres could be fun. You can't put MJF out there.
No.
It
Interesting.
depends. Do you want Hangman Page to be the biggest heel in wrestling?
You got to keep them separate. You got to keep them separate.
You got to keep them separated. Yes. Speaking of Raven, that was good. Because that Hangman match was dumb in a lot of ways, and unless Mark Briscoe was healthy, like you start the show with Mark Briscoe coming out there and saying, I don't care that I'm not medically cleared. I don't care about any of that. Max, get your ass out here. I'm going to show you what it is to fight in this building, because the Ring of Honor tradition that's going on in there and the blood that he spilled, there you go. That's the way you do it. But if you put Max out there, he's going to be a conquering hero, especially given the booking of what happened at the end of Forbidden Door.
I don't mind that the match didn't hit, but I mean, obviously it's better if it did. I just think you're better off with a 15-minute match that doesn't hit. 30 minutes is a long time for those.
It was a long time with a lot of gaga, and I'm going to be biased against it. It's tough for me to be biased against an MJF match, but my dislike of Bryce Remsburg is so strong that he makes it almost entirely about himself.
Yeah.
And it's
tough spot with the pinfall.
It's very distracting. They found a way to have Hangman retain, but I don't love it. And then notion now that you need to cash in your contract a week in advance or whatever it is. There's no difference between that and winning the Owen.
True. Yeah. I also think it was just like, hey, too little, too late. Shouldn't this happen before the pay per view? I don't know. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it all gets presented tonight. Should be fun to talk about later on this week as well. And just to obviously get your follow ups later on too when it comes to all that. I did have some other topics to cover. Did you, Robert, have any more thoughts on the Jake Hager interview that happened and what he had to say?
Dude, we got like 2 minutes left. What are you
Okay.
doing to me? Yes. I don't think Jake Hager was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Hager is not the only time that I have ever theoretically heard rumblings of some of those dealings with Tony. At the same time, you can't run a wrestling company and be a saint.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony has hid for a very long time of not being that Vince McMahon tyrant. Sometimes you do have to have some degree of that Vince McMahon tyranny in order to run a wrestling company. So the part where Hager's like, he didn't offer me a great deal, but we all know that Stadium Stampede is what put this company on the map, and I was in that. It's like, really? Like, I don't know that you were necessarily the secret sauce for that. But at the same time, the complaints about Tony's great at debuts, but he's not great at follow through and storylines and payoff. I've been yelling that from the top of buildings for years now. And I think some of the folks inside AEW have been waiting for that opportunity. And as more and more people leave the AEW fold, you're going to get a lot of those stories. But the last takeaway, and this is one where you have a legitimate wrestling journalist here in Justin Barrasso. No offense, Dom.
There's two of us here.
That Hager in this interview starts name dropping Dax and Cash. And then there were the DMs that were going back and forth with them and like, hey, you weren't supposed to name us and what's going on here. Is this going to make it tougher for you, Justin, to get folks to be on the record and be transparent, given Hager was so open and honest and is now getting called on the map by other folks?
I liked how Hager, the defense, because I saw the DMs, the ones that were posted. He's like, well, I did say I think.
Yeah.
Oh, well, in that case. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, this is a typical interview, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I thought it was a good interview, but in the sense of a guy who's disgruntled, that he left the company, he felt undervalued, which is too bad. Jake Hager wasn't the guy that put AEW on the map, but he was part of the process. Like, I liked his debut on the opening night of Dynamite. Which I think I got that right. I reported that ahead of time, but which is what we're approaching 6 years ago. But I like that. I like the fact that he played a role with Jericho and he was important in the Jericho Appreciation Society. So I don't know, but to me, it's just a disgruntled free agent, and it seems like he's embittered by the whole process now of leaving. And I get that there's a lot of guys still there. He probably thinks he's better than, or bigger than, or stronger than, or more compelling than, and it's a subjective business and they're making money and he's not. No, I don't think it'll change because everyone, I don't want to say is going to go into business for themselves, but when someone has a story to tell, they'll tell it. So I don't think so. It's a good question, but I don't know. I felt bad during some of the stuff. Some of the stories were good, but it's like you just hit on, Robert. We've heard so many stories about Vince and Triple H for so long. Tony's going to get it too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because he's had a roster for so long and none of these guys have really ever left, that now as they do leave, they need to make an impression. They need to make a splash. When you realize after all these years that Dark Order is still on the roster, and a week ago they were tweeting about how they were the top merchandise seller of the week and they have not been on TV this year. There are going to be stories. There are going to be things that come out about what goes on behind the scenes of AEW. But if you're looking for an interesting story about a big man, Justin,
the main event monster, Fulton. You might know him as Sawyer Fulton or Madman Fulton. Goes by Fulton now. He's the pro wrestling realtor too. Actually, so on this show we talked about Boca Raton Championship Wrestling, and I spoke with Robert. If you have any ideas for a show or anybody that we can connect with, but I love the idea. I think you mentioned it on the show. The Falls Count Anywhere match in Boca Raton. So we kept in touch on that. Robert connected me with Jacob Southwick Fulton, who's, I think, an incredibly talented big man. And it's a tough era to be a big man. Not that I wouldn't mind trying out to be 6'8" for a day or two, but see what it's like. But he's got a great story. The merging of the two worlds with real estate and pro wrestling, even the connective tissue with Kona Reeves or Noah Kakao. That was where he suffered the injury in NXT at TakeOver in 2016 in Toronto that led to his release, that led to him coming on the indies and Impact and kind of helping develop who he is now. So that's at undisputed.substack.com. It's on my Twitter. And that is the feature story for this week's Week in Wrestling column.
I just retweeted it on the WWE Creative _ish X account. So you definitely go check that article out. And that is also one of the plethora of platforms in which you can see Rumor and Innuendo every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern, including the @Dominic D'Angelo X account, the @SE Scoops X account, and on YouTube on Rumor and Innuendo and ad-free shows. So on behalf of the only man that I know that writes manual notes, Justin Barrasso, and the guy who thankfully did not sing today, Dominic D'Angelo, I'm Robert Karpelis. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
I'll have to warm up next time.